Welcome to another segment of Homeless Not Hopeless Productions. Homeless Not Hopeless is an organization that was created several years ago by the homeless, for the homeless. Homeless Not Hopeless has 4 houses in the Hyannis area, over 50 beds. Homeless Not Hopeless goal is to pull people off of the streets, out of the hospital, out of detoxes, people in desperate need into affordable housing, with an education into wellness. Hundreds of people have been helped by Homeless Not Hopeless, and hundreds more, thousands more in the years to come. This segment is an important segment for me as a co-founder of Homeless Not Hopeless. My friend here, Mr. Billy Bishop, the other founder of Homeless Not Hopeless, would like to share with you our vision of how Homeless Not Hopeless was thought about, was felt about, was prayed about, and how it came about in our vision for the future, so that 10, 20, 30 years from now, those watching, those involved with the program, the board of directors, everybody else, can hear how the program began, what was the heart of the program. Billy, welcome, my friend.
Thank you, Alan. Good morning.
So here we are. What are we, like 7 years into Homeless Not Hopeless?
Yeah, we were the organization that wasn't going to make 7 weeks, if I recall.
Well, I had a vision as I began working with the homeless in the 90s. Not really a vision, I had the sad reality that by and large, the country was falling short, was failing to address homelessness in an adequate way. And a lot of huge organizations doing their best, not to speak ill of them, but still so many hundreds of people falling to the streets, dying on the streets of America. And I wondered and had a vision, well, could the homeless take care of themselves if they were just simply giving the resources? We seem to feel that they have to be managed somehow, put into programs, rehabilitated, rather than simply providing them a safe, supportive, living environment. And you had a similar vision. Yours came from mine came from trying to work with the homeless as a worker, and yours came right from living out there in the woods. And you've talked to me about a minister who actually brought some spirituality to you in the woods. Maybe you could talk a little bit about him and how your vision of, maybe we could do something someday to take care of each other.
Well, it was a fact that back, I'm talking early, mid-90s, I'd say, about mid-90s, the resources just weren't there. And what little was there, the people who were trying to help the homeless people, there just wasn't enough to go around.
Right.
So consequently, if I'm not wrong, but I'm going to be awful close, there were approximately 1,000 people living on the street right here in Barnstable County. That's in the mid-90s, with no resources. I shouldn't say none, but
few resources.
Few, far and few between.
Largely the people on the street were the most disabled, the most vulnerable.
The most needy.
Right.
The people that are on the street, right to today, it was the same back in the mid-90s. They're mentally challenged, physically challenged, spiritually challenged. Medically challenged. My God, wild animals have trouble staying alive out there.
So you're in the woods, and tell me about the minister and who he was,
Kenny.
and how he inspired you.
Kenny was a minister for the Salvation Army. And back in those days, the Salvation Army did an awful lot for the homeless people. But Kenny was a minister over there, and he loved what he did, but he had a drinking problem. And but what a great guy, what a great guy. He lived in the woods with us for months and months, and he walked away from the Salvation Army, he picked up drinking, and like everybody else, it got the best of him, and Kenny died out there. Kenny died on a couch with a bunch of us sitting around. We weren't even aware that he was dying.
How did he inspire you? We have a half an hour, which isn't much
Oh,
time, so
I
I
know,
want
all
to
right.
move us along. So he gave you some inspiration
Absolutely. He would pray for us every night he was there. He would have us praying with him. And,
to not give up.
oh, yeah, don't give up, don't quit. Something will break, something will happen. For many years, we all sat around and said, well, if we could only pool our Social Security checks or whatever checks were available at the time, just get enough money together and there was 4 or 5 or 6 of us sitting around talking about this, and all you could do was talk about it because you could never put enough money together first, last, and security.
Or find a landlord who would be willing to.
Willing to take homeless people. It was plain to see we were homeless. So back in those days, there weren't too many landlords that would welcome
But you had that vision, and I know from talking with you a number of times that you and others out there were taking care of each other.
Absolutely.
Or you were trying, not all of the homeless, because some of them were so lost in their addiction, really were
Right.
unable to help themselves.
That's
But
right.
there was a core of you that were leader-like figures out there and gave hope and inspiration and did what you could to help each other out. Sometimes it was handing over $100 bills to somebody in need. Other times, just protecting them, in the night.
That's right. From the elements. I can't help thinking that so many times I would sit there and think to myself, well, if we could make it here in the middle of the woods up at Betty's Pond or down the camps, down to the baseball, down the tracks or whatever, if we could make it there, if we only could get a house, we could certainly live in a house, take care of the house, respect the property, respect our neighbors. Anything's better than what we're doing here. I can remember thinking that so many, many times, but
So then there I was, volunteering at the Salvation Army, doing some group workshops, basically trying to encourage the homeless to think more positively and productively, until I began to have this haunting sense of, what the heck am I doing? These people need places to live. And
Housing.
having a more positive attitude wasn't going to get them there. There was a housing crisis, an affordable housing crisis that was largely not being adequately addressed at all.
unaddressed.
So I began to question, what the heck am I doing? Am I victimizing the homeless by making them feel that there's something wrong with them when we're not providing them the basic necessities of life, food and shelter? And then suddenly the community decide to send the police in to clear out the camps and essentially say to the homeless who had no place to live that you're going to be arrested. And I'm in an absolute panic. I don't know what to do. And Reverend Bob Huff, who had a huge heart for the homeless, and Martha McKeon, wonderful, wonderful homeless advocate, we pulled money together and we took about 20 of you to a couple of the state parks over the summer. And I had it was an impulsive decision, but each night I said to myself, what am I doing? I mean, what is the goal of this? And that's when I really began the magic between you and I began to happen, because you knew that I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And I was panicked with that, and yet you gave me encouragement. No, you're doing something important. Talk a little bit about what you were seeing happening, because I got you a place.
Well, once we got our own place, it was
Which was a campground.
campground, right?
A legal campground.
A legal campground too. What I observed, and I knew everybody in the camp because I had been camping with them, only in different circumstances. But I saw. The very first thing I noticed was they were laughing, they were smiling. They had the whole attitude was changing, and they were getting along.
And working together.
And working together. They were warm at night. They had campfires, which are totally illegal other than outside of a campsite. They could have a campfire. They're sitting around singing, dancing even. We had people come in from the Salvation Army, from the Council of Churches, The Salvation Army was nice enough to supply the food. The council of churches brought in entertainment. We're being treated like human beings. We were living in tents, but yet it was like being at home. And the people that came, they were so gracious that we knew instantly that they cared about us. And that is so, so big. When you're sitting in the woods all by yourself thinking about how miserable you made your own life, and you know nobody cares anymore, that is so depressing that you have another drink.
Right.
You know? And
so I knew during that time that you were the guy, that if I could, with my connections, I had the masters in social work and connections with the community, and I'd certainly been barking up a storm about the injustice of homelessness. If I could make some connections, I knew myself I would be just as inadequate as the other organizations, but I felt that if you could take on a leadership role, and Mark and Marianne, who were both homeless themselves, and some others, a few of you, a core of you, if we could get you a place, not a campsite, but an actual house,
yeah.
could you guys pull it together? And your answer was yes. You know?
I couldn't see it any other way. When you asked me that question, I said, well, if we can do it out here in the woods with absolutely nothing, we can certainly do it.
So we make phone calls, and we begin to form our organization, Homeless Not
Correct.
Hopeless. Mark and Marianne, at that time, you know, were major leaders. They lived in the house. We had a secret Homeless Not Hopeless house,
Yes,
one of
we
my
did.
rentals before, which
Right.
is another long story, but became a nonprofit organization. It was a rental for 5 women, and as you knew and I knew, what we were hearing around is this is going to be one of those, you're going to get a bunch of drunks and addicts together, they're going to get
They'll
drunk, they're
burn
gonna
the
burn
house
place
down. They'll do they'll destroy the house. I heard it all.
But to their surprise, and I think honestly to our surprise.
I'd like to say this because this really upset me at the time, and it still does today. It still hurts me. One of the hotshot politicians here in town, Barnstable, made it a point to come up to me and insult me as far as I was concerned. But I think in his own mind he was trying to help me. But
Right.
nevertheless, he said to me, "You guys won't last 2 months. You're going to fall flat on your face." I was so hurt by that the only answer I could give him was, "Well, we'll see. We'll see."
Well, you know, even the world, you know, people at the very bottom, because there's 2 ways of thinking about that. One is, my God, we've got to help them, which we all know is what God wants us to do, is help those, you know, most in need. That's certainly Matthew 25. You want to get to know God, get to know those most in need. The other way of looking at it, which is, you know, in opposition of that law of love, is they're bums. They're not worth, you know, existence. And that's not just here, it's throughout the world. We don't reach out, you know, through the love that God has
That's
given us.
exactly how I felt when
Yeah.
he said that. And that
But so we move into that house, and it was incredibly successful, and the the landlords were the
Hyannis Yacht Club.
Hyannis Yacht Club.
That
So
was a
talk about
miracle.
a miracle
That
taking
was a
place
miracle.
for a prestigious organization like that to say, we hear your vision, we believe in your vision, and we want to provide you a house to live in. Obviously, we needed to pay rent, which you know, you, Mark, and Marianne, you know, brought people in and said, hey, you know, we're going to have to pool our money and
That's
keep
it.
this place up.
We pulled it in the woods. There's no
Yeah.
reason why we couldn't
You
pool
picked
it.
the right people. Not everybody
Yeah.
is ready, but you picked the
No.
people that were. And the next thing you know, the Hyannis Yacht Club says, well, you know, the house next door is ours too, and would you like to take that over? And I was a little nervous, but you guys, you, Mark, and Marianne, and you know, you certainly convinced me that, you know, hey, there's a lot of people out there. Let's take this. So now Homeless Not Hopeless is 2 houses. You know,
Yeah,
16 people being, you know, loved and taken care of. And that was just incredible.
That was a miracle. I have to thank the Cape Cod Times for putting that right across the front page of the paper. The miracle on Ocean Street. Because that, without God's help, that would have never happened. God brought you into the homeless man's life for a reason. And look at all the wonderful things that have happened. The whole thing is a miracle as far as I'm concerned. Baxter Road, Main Street, Ocean Street, it's a phenomenal
Well, the 2 houses
thing.
became 3 houses, became
and
4
4
houses.
houses.
And tell me a bit about, again, just because, you know, we're not going to live forever, Billy, and we want this video of the founder's view. The essential difference of Homeless Not Hopeless as a place for the homeless to live versus the typical sober houses. What is the essential difference?
Well, you know, I went to, it
Not
took-
not to name any
I
of the other
know,
sober
I know
houses
that,
or
I
to
know,
be
I
negative
know. No,
about
I'm
them.
not going to
but,
be. I'm not going to be. Matter of fact, I have nothing but praise for everybody who tried to help me. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. But the difference between those houses and our houses, is that what you're looking for?
Yeah. What's the heart of
The
the
heart-
Homeless Not Hopeless houses?
that's the heart of it. Love and respect. I don't care where a guy comes from or where a gal comes from or what they've done. Lord knows I got enough skeletons in my closet. And people who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, as far as I'm concerned. I learned that when I was this high.
But when you say
but-
love and respect versus
When a person comes into our house, it's just the opposite into a program, because the programs that I went to were just numbers. You know, you were a number.
what was rules and regulations?
Absolutely.
You better watch out. You break the rule, you're out.
You're gone. You're a goner.
But at the Homeless Not Hopeless houses,
That's the difference. We love them enough not to throw them out.
so what
People have criticized me for that, but I don't care.
so somebody would relapse and the response of the house managers was,
Look, we love you. Let's sit down and talk this out. Let's find out what we got to do to not let this happen again. We'll work with you. We'll work with you.
and then you'd work a plan with
Absolutely.
them and let them be the ones to kind of, you know, put that plan together. So it's
together.
not something
That's
that
right.
you're imposing.
I'm not we never forced anything on anybody. We don't put people out unless, you know, naturally somewhere along the line somebody's going
They
to
just
cross
make it
that line.
impossible.
They
Yeah.
make it impossible.
But
That's
that's
right.
rare. I mean, the success
Oh, I
rate
know.
has been incredible.
Rare. Oh, I say we don't do it. We do when we have to, but how many?
Only then.
Only then, yes. For Lord's sakes, how many chances did I have in life? My God, I couldn't count them all. So
Well, we often
you know,
we talk about, you know, the illness and the wellness, and I know when people come in, they're said, you know, we've all been ill, and
they're all broken down. They're spiritually, spirituality. Anybody living in the woods is giving up on their maker long before they get to the woods. You know, it's
And the message that we've given is that we're accepting you with your illness, but we're committed to work
Helping
with
you.
you
Yes.
on your wellness.
yeah.
And what we ask is, as you become better, then you reach out to the
Help
other
others,
residents.
help
As
others.
people are coming in ill with all the unproductive behaviors, negative behaviors, relapses, that you're going to be there in a loving, helpful way too. Because in most programs, you do a relapse, suddenly you're a poison in the house as opposed to a loved one in need. And I think that's a heart of Homeless Not Hopeless, because many, if not most, sober houses or programs, if you relapse, you're looked upon as a poison in the house and you need to be removed. At Homeless Not Hopeless, you're a loved one that's fallen in darkness.
And we got to help you.
We got to pull you out.
We got to help you. I met a guy once. I think his name was Alan Burt. He said to me, he said, you know, everybody's got a little, just I don't care how little that good is in them. Our job is to bring it out.
Yeah.
And when that person sees that love that he's still got in him, it's going to make him a better person, and that love is just going to flourish. And I have seen that in all of our houses, all of them, all of them.
You usually see the looks on their faces. They know they've done something wrong and they get called to the office. It's like going to the principal's office. I kind of giggle every time somebody comes in, you know. What did you do this for? I understand you did this. How can we help you? We love you. Can we help you? How can we help you? The look on their face. Even though I drank, I had a relapse, or I didn't go to my AA meetings or some other group meeting, he's supposed to be mad at me. Why isn't he? He should be cursing me. I come up here to get reprimanded, and the guy's telling me he loves me, and how can I help you? You can't miss with you know, that's a power play to somebody who's been in the woods. He knows everybody hates his guts. They won't even let you stay in the woods anymore. They come in and they take down your camp. So you know you're not loved very much. But
I remember you once telling me that the problem that you had and many of your friends that were homeless had with programs is, what's the point of going, because I'm going to mess up and I'm going to get kicked out anyway. And I think that's what you were just talking about, that they come to understand that we know you're probably going to mess up.
Yeah, that's right.
And we're not going to give up on you. We're going to keep helping you. So do the best you can, and when you do fall down, you know, we're going to be there to help pick you up.
Something that I don't think the general public is aware of, but years ago, when they first opened the Pilot House, which you had a lot to do with, in the Cape Cod Times, I could have killed the Cape Cod Times at this point. I was one of the first ones in the first Pilot House on Cape Cod here. And the Cape Cod Times wrote, "The worst of the worst have gone into the Pilot House." I was one of those guys they were calling the worst of the worst. Boy, until I got my head cleared up. See, these drugs and it was alcohol for me, but it altered my normal way of thinking. And when you can't think right, you do nothing right.
But Billy, I challenge, I think that statement came more from the prejudiced view that people that are suffering, whether it's from addiction or mental illness or old age, poverty, are bad people. Part of what we accomplished with Homeless Not Hopeless was to provide a safe haven for people that are homeless and in need, but also to communicate to the community, these are not the worst of the worst. These are our brothers and sisters in need. And that's what we've proven, because the neighbors of these 4 houses are so grateful
They love us.
that these houses are there, because the way they're so well taken care of. Because you largely, and I mean, Mark and Marianne, who were co-founders, were part of the organization for the first year, and because of medical illnesses, they needed to leave, but you took over from that point on, and you do a wonderful job of getting the men and women that are living in these houses to see this as their house, not some landlord's
This is
house,
their home.
and how they
That's
take
all.
care of the inside and the outside, and that makes them well.
Oh, yeah.
That makes them well.
These people are proud of being there, not ashamed. Anytime I was in any other house, I was ashamed of being there. I didn't belong there.
So
I
it's
shouldn't
working
be there.
so well, and I think my message, or at least part of my message to the board of directors 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 years down the road is I hope we don't veer off course and become more like a typical program, too much rules and regulations, consequences, in that it really does stay a love thing, in that everybody is committed that we are always going to be as loving and forgiving and helpful as possible. And whenever we reach a point that we have to let somebody go, we can all look at each other and honestly say to each other, we did everything we could.
We had no choice.
We had no choice.
No choice.
It's the danger is the thinking that you know, there's not enough consequences. Or what I've seen in a lot of programs is you have to treat everybody the same. And the truth of it is, that's not, you treat people where they're at.
That's right.
And if somebody, let's say somebody is mentally ill and they can't do the chores properly or as well as other people, then that's understood and that's accepted.
Everybody picks up the slack.
And it's explained to
that.
the others.
Yeah.
You got
Yeah.
greater abilities and feel blessed because of that. So I'm hoping that the vision stays true, that people are individualized. We've had people, as you know, that had very serious mental illnesses and really couldn't contribute, much to it, but they were loved and respected.
Yeah.
And my hope is that the organization stays true to that. It's to provide affordable housing with love and help and support. And the educational part is so important. It's illness to wellness. And as you've said many times, and Bob McGillivray, who now is running the program in your retirement, he talks about it's making me well to be living in running this program, as you felt yourself.
It's a healing process for anybody that's ever been homeless. This is the most wonderful healing process that you could ever go through. Knowing that you're loved, knowing that you respect. It just you just fly. I'm a miracle. I never ever dreamed that this was ever going to be possible.
Well, love made it happen, and we were fortunate to have a number of people that have given substantial donations that helped us to, stay afloat and purchase 2 houses. But my hope and vision is that other towns in Barnstable County and other towns across Massachusetts and even the country can realize that this model works. And rather than grow with the challenges that we had, there are houses just sitting there in towns that are empty, that are falling apart. And towns should be donating houses to Homeless Not Hopeless, or organizations like ours, for organizations like ours to then take care of the homeless. It's kind of like that thing when they were in the camps, that you knew that if we could just simply be provided, with physical structures, we could take care of ourselves. And that's my hope. We've only got a couple of minutes left. Just any parting words to the Board of the Future and Homeless Not Hopeless people?
I think it's so the program that we have right now never ever would have functioned without knowing that the homeless are capable and are willing to take care of themselves, which saves our county hundreds and thousands of dollars a year.
And saves lives.
And it saves lives, that's right.
In the role of us, kind of like the role that you have now, we're sort of like the guardian angels, work on the sidelines, and we give advice and counsel, but we let the people living there, especially the house managers and the internal leaders
We
there,
couldn't do it without
make the
them.
decisions, because it's really their program.
Yeah.
And so on behalf of Billy Bishop, my dear friend, and myself as co-founders of Homeless Not Hopeless, the Miracle on Ocean Street, our hope and prayer is that this program expands across Massachusetts and the country. My prayer, and I know Billy's prayer, is that hearts and minds are opened up. And thank you for watching, and if you can join in with Homeless Not Hopeless, your donations be so greatly appreciated, and we'll get another house.
We're also a nonprofit.
Nonprofit organization.
We don't take any state and federal funds at all, so we need all the help we can get.
Well, God bless. Thank you so much. Billy, my friend.
Thank you, my friend.
This is one for the archives.
That's it.
We'll see
Often
what,
think about the way we live today. We seem so sheltered and so cold.